Hey everybody, it's Josh Packard. This is my daughter Abigail. We're going to bring you a message tonight because I want it's very important for my daughter to know this. I'm going to tell you what, I love the Lord, and man, I've had a very strong impetus to spread and preach His word since the very beginning. But now that I have her, even more so. Now, my biggest fear is for her to grow up and believe the Christian lie. I really don't want her to ever judge herself by that golden false image that Christianity sets up and then guilt you for not obeying. Okay? Jesus purchased you. It's all past tense. It's done. You cannot sin because Christ remains in you. It's done. You guys got to understand this. I know everybody's so afraid that if you thought if you could just go do whatever you want, you're just going to go sin to death and you're going to make God cry. But that's not the way it works. You've been made new. You've been baptized in Christ. So now your freedom, when you're free, because you're carrying around the burdens of the world and you can't serve God, those burdens are causing you to sin. So now, why don't you let off those burdens so that you can actually serve Christ? You want to. You're made to serve Christ. You've been made new. You're not a sinner anymore. Trust that. He who began the good work in you will finish it. You're a new creation. Get up and walk. I don't know how many times I can say this to people, but it seems like they just don't get it. The Christian image is a lie. Pastors, don't trust pastors. They have ulterior motives for most times being a pastor. You get lots of prestige. People pat you on the back. They get the uppermost seat in synagogues. Oh, wait a minute. That's Pharisees talking about. They get people thinking they're great and hot shit. They're not. They don't know anything. Can you guys tell me anything about the New Jerusalem? Did you guys know that death and hell were cast in the lake of fire, so therefore the lake of fire is in hell? Do you guys know about the burning bush, or Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego? Do you realize that they were the only ones out of all the Jews that were with them to not bow down and worship that golden image of Nebuchadnezzar? Do you look around you every day and notice that all the other Christians are bowing to that golden image? And what happens when you refuse? Well, people aren't going to really argue. They'll try for a little while, and then they'll just call you a cult leader behind your back. Folks, Jesus is the only one we can point to. Everything else is denominational. Everything else is just BS. People passing for the doctrines of God, the advice, and the opinions of men. It's BS, completely from the ground up. Cemetery is not somewhere where godly people come from. Let the dead bury their dead. So, I'm sure it's not every one of them, but for the most part, and by and large, people that go to seminary are there because they want to achieve something. They want to be perceived as something. And all the chicks dig pastors, by the way. And music pastors, musicians, and it's just to let you guys know. So anyway, the reason I'm saying this is because of my daughter. I love her very much, and I don't want her to become the slave of men's opinion. The only person I want her to care about whose opinion that matters is Jesus. And Jesus already pronounced her clean and perfect and holy, seeing everything she's done from before she was ever born. He is pleased with her. He's pleased with you. There is no such thing as a good Christian. I've never seen one. How do you know you're not? You are exactly where God wants you today. If He wants you to be different tomorrow, you'll be different tomorrow. But for today, you're exactly the place that He wants you. You're doing the exact same things that He wants you to do. You are right where He wants you to be. So quit beating yourself up. Because first of all, you can't believe in God and yourself. If you try to tell me you can believe on God yourself, then I'm going to tell you that you've never met Him. And then, therefore, don't believe Him. And by that standard, you're going to have to go to hell because you don't believe in Jesus. Because it's by your belief, not His sacrifice, right? So anyways, folks, get over this. I'm tired of seeing people crippled. People who are genuine believers, but since you don't fit the Christian mold, you think you're doing wrong. And then these people that fit the Christian mold, which is all by the flesh, then they're guilting you for not obeying them and their image and their God, who will throw you into hell if you don't believe in Him. That doesn't sound like God. God ain't throwing you into hell before you even start. It's you were going to hell before, by Adam. But there's something that the religious don't like to talk about. There's something about Jesus going down the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, or however long. He's like 3 days for sure. But why did He go down there? And He went into the prison. He went down to the very lowest part. Well, why did He do that? Why didn't He just stop in paradise where the people were that were saved, that deserved the reward? He didn't do that. He went all the way to the bottom, actually where the Nephilim were held, the disembodied spirits of people that were mixed with angels. He went down there and even preached to them and overcame hell, the prison. Oh, that's great. He overcame it. It couldn't hold him. Yeah, but once he overcame it, he defeated it and made it subject to him. Everywhere he defeated, so when he died and rose again, everything he made was his. Everything, everywhere you go, everywhere he went has now become his. I'm sorry, folks. Hell isn't a place. It's a state of mind. It's a state of separation from Christ. And you're separated by your hypocrisy, by your false works, your attempts to appear righteous. Just look at Cain and Abel. You know, Adam and Eve, they deserved to die. But God, rather than killing them, slaughtered an innocent little lamb. Then he took the animal skins and covered them after they had already covered themselves. Abel, on the other hand, he was a keeper of the sheep, right? So what he was doing was witnessing of God's sacrifice. Not his mother and father's sacrifice, where they covered themselves and tried to offer their righteousness before God. Well, let's look at Cain. What was he doing? He was trying to offer up the works of the soil, fruits of the soil. That corresponded to Adam and Eve's sacrifice. So what he did is he straight out denied God's covering. So let's look at us today in our hypocrisy. Every step you take in hypocrisy, every attempt to try to be righteous and selfish and good and conforming to the Christian image, you deny the blood that bought you. Sorry. So folks, Jesus is victorious. The virgin birth wasn't just an amazing miracle or a fulfillment of prophecy. It was the time when Jesus identified himself with you. So that when he led his sinless life, and when he died on the cross, he took you with him. When he went down to the belly of the earth, guess where you went? And he went to the very bottom. So no matter where you are, no matter how far you are down, there he goes to meet you and bring to you the kingdom. Then he raised from the dead, bringing you with him. Wow. Then he ascended to the right hand of God and has sat you there with him. So what's there left to be done, folks? Well, now it's overcoming the works of Satan and his children. And the works of Satan are by those who still believe the condemnation. They still believe the lie that they're sinners. And if therefore sinners, then they're not good Christians. So now they got to find some good idea of what a good Christian is. And then they got to conform to it. Then what they'll do in order to justify their existence, they will guilt you for not obeying their God that they imagined and made up and then called him Jesus. So folks, it's just food for thought. You know, I just want everybody to be free. I want everybody to experience what I experience, to where I don't have to do anything. I can go sin all day if I want. I know God will take care of me. There's no possibility I could ever be thrown into hell. I know this. So what I do to spend my days is I spend my days studying the scriptures, thinking about God, talking to him, praying with him, talking about other believers about him. Everywhere we go, to people that don't believe, all I can do is serve the Lord. Because that's what I truly want to do. I've been made new. People trust it. You've been baptized into Christ. You are in his likeness and his image now. Don't worry about failing. It won't matter. You cannot fail. He that began the good work in you will finish it. All right? And Abigail, I want you to know the Lord loves you. No matter what you do, you will never be separated from him. Even if I fail you and everyone else does, your God will never fail you. And he's pleased with you and he loves you. And he will never leave you or forsake you. Okay, sweetheart? And don't let anybody try to tell you over Christ what you ought to be as a Christian, sweetheart. All right, you guys. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy. The church is a lie 100%. The image is false. It's a golden image. It's set up in order to guilt you and make you conform to it. Just look at Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego again. Look at them, and they refused to worship. And if you really notice that golden image, they were the only 3 Jews that didn't. All the rest of the Jews were bowing down. So just think about that. And then when they were cast into the fiery furnace, where Jesus was, their hair wasn't singed, their clothes didn't smell of smoke. The only thing that was lost was their bonds, the things that were holding them captive. So I want you to see, the very first thing God shows Moses is the burning bush. He talks about his righteousness as a flame of fire all the time. It says Jesus baptizes with the Spirit and with fire. Kind of look at the lake of fire next time and see what comes right after the lake of fire. So the first and the third mentioning of lake of fire, just check it out and see who comes out of that fire. See if I'm blowing smoke up your ass. Because you need to be able to bide that fire. That fire is where Jesus is, and that's where we're going. So, folks, we love you. God bless you. Abigail says God bless you too, even though you can't understand her yet, but she does. And guys, be free. Don't let anyone tell you what you ought to be, what you ought not to be. The Lord is in you. All right? Good night, everybody. Love you. Okay, turn on.